Bradford, West Yorkshire, a city known for its resilience, culture, and working-class roots. But beneath the surface, a darker reality was at play. A ruthless drug empire known as the Sully Line ran a multi-million-pound operation in the heart of the city, controlling the supply of heroin and crack cocaine. This wasn't just street-level dealing, this was an empire, making millions while leaving a trail of addiction and destruction. Today, we uncover the shocking truth behind the Sully Line, a criminal network that earned an estimated £10 million, ran 24/7, and flooded Bradford streets with over 200 kilos of Class A drugs before finally being dismantled by law enforcement. At the top of the operation were three key players: Mohammed Hassan, Nomi, the ringleader and mastermind; Mohammed Ayaz, Shani, his brother and right-hand man; Tasawwur Aslam, the logistics man who kept the business running. This wasn't just a gang, it was a highly organized business, supplying heroin and crack cocaine to thousands of addicts in Bradford. But like all crime empires, it eventually collapsed, leading to huge prison sentences for its leaders. At the very top of the Sully Line sat Mohammed Hassan, known on the streets as Nomi. He wasn't just any drug dealer, he was a well-known and respected name in Bradford and Boxer. Before becoming a criminal mastermind, Nomi was known for his fighting skills. He had a strong reputation in Bradford as a fighter who could hold his own in any street brawl. His name carried weight, and he used that fear and respect to build his criminal empire. For those who want a rare look into Nomi's past, an exclusive video of a 2006 street fight featuring Nomi will be posted on SN Studios' YouTube channel. However, you'll need to be a member to watch it. Join SN Studios. Membership now to access exclusive fight footage, behind-the-scenes crime stories, never-before-seen videos. Nomi wasn't just feared, he was smart. He knew that running a successful drug operation required organization and discipline. Under his leadership, the Sully Line became one of the most sophisticated drug networks in Bradford. 24/7 operation. The Sully Line never stopped. If you wanted drugs at 3 a.m., the line was still active. Phone orders from addicts. Users would call from public phone boxes in Bradford, and within minutes the drugs were delivered. Massive earnings. The gang made between £2.5 million to £10 million selling 200 kilos of heroin and crack cocaine. Well-structured system. Nomi ran the operation like a business, ensuring that drugs were always in stock, money was collected, and dealers were always working. The street dealers working for Nomi's gang handed over up to £5,000 per day. The police spent years gathering evidence. Surveillance teams watched drug deals in broad daylight, monitored thousands of phone calls, and raided stash houses. In 2019, the operation finally collapsed, and Nomi was sentenced to 11 years and 4 months. Mohammed Ayaz, also known as Shani, was the right-hand man to his brother Nomi. He controlled the street dealers, ensuring that they worked shifts to cover all hours of the day and night. Because of his senior role, he was given one of the longest sentences, 13 years and 2 months in prison. While Nomi and Shani were well known on the streets, Tasawwur Aslam preferred to stay in the background, but don't mistake his low profile for low importance. Without Aslam, the Sully Line would have fallen apart. Aslam's role in the Sully Line. He made sure the gang always had a supply of drugs. He managed the phone lines, ensuring that calls were answered 24/7. He was involved in money laundering, making sure the gang's millions didn't attract police attention. He was a key part of the gang structure, ensuring that everything ran smoothly behind the scenes. Despite staying in the shadows, the police were watching him. When the Sully Line was taken down, Aslam was sentenced to 10 years in prison. The operation was centered in Lum Lane, an area that for years was synonymous with the drug trade in Bradford. Addicts from all over the city would flock to this locale, knowing that the Sully line's phone boxes were their direct link to a quick fix. The gang maintained a 24-hour operation. Whether it was the middle of the night or early dawn, addicts could dial in to order their next hit. The seamless around-the-clock service made the Sully line a reliable source for heroin and crack cocaine. Between July 2017 and August 2018, the Sully line received a jaw-dropping 229,000 calls. Each call represented an addict in desperate need, a link in the chain that powered this multi-million-pound enterprise. The drug operation had a turnover of at least £2.5 million, though estimates suggest the real figure could have reached up to £10 million. This enormous sum was generated by the sale of 200 kilos of drugs, fueling a vicious cycle of addiction and profit. On any given day, street dealers were reportedly handing over up to £5,000 to the gang's directors. This money wasn't just profit, it was the lifeblood that kept the entire criminal machine running. Police had been monitoring the gang for years. Advanced surveillance techniques were deployed to keep tabs on the operation. Officers tracked phone calls made from public phone boxes and even set up covert cameras to capture live footage of the drug deals in progress. Officers were often seen observing North Avenue in Manningham. Here, a queue of desperate addicts would form, each waiting to get their hands on a dose supplied by the Sully line. This blatant display of drug activity in broad daylight only fueled the urgency of the investigation. The relentless police investigation led to 15 separate drug seizures in Bradford. Each raid not only removed a significant amount of drugs from the streets, but also provided critical evidence against the gang members. These seizures painted a vivid picture of a well-oiled criminal enterprise that spanned every hour of the day. From detailed phone records to undercover testimonies, the police amassed enough evidence to prove the scale and reach of the Sully line. This comprehensive surveillance operation was pivotal in dismantling one of Bradford's biggest drug networks. Amir Rehman was in charge of storing and securing the drugs that fueled the entire enterprise. Earning up to £700 per week, his role was essential for keeping the supply chain running smoothly. His house became a covert depot for the gang's illicit cargo. During police raids, authorities uncovered 561 deals of Class A drugs valued at £3,500 in his possession. This discovery underscored not only the scale of the operation, but also the level of trust the gang placed in him. The Sully line's 24/7 functioning depended on reliable logistics. Rehman's ability to discreetly store large quantities of heroin and crack cocaine ensured that the operation never faced a shortage, no matter the hour. His contribution was a cog in a machine that reportedly generated between £2.5 million to £10 million over its peak period. In December 2008, near the gates of Lister Park in Manningham, a disturbing incident unfolded. Rehman, then just 18 years old, launched into a vicious attack against a passerby. He targeted 51-year-old Ronald O'Connor, who had simply walked to a nearby shop for a loaf of bread. In a frenzied outburst, Rehman shouted, "Manningham belongs to Muslims. We don't want whites. We rule Bradford. We are going to get you out." As O'Connor attempted to enter the shop, Rehman lunged forward, stabbing him twice in the upper arm with a 4 to 5-inch knife. The attack was savage and unrelenting. Witnesses described Rehman as like a crazy man, out of control. As he swung the knife repeatedly, O'Connor's palms, fingers, and upper arm sustained deep lacerations, resulting in severe pain and the need for emergency surgery at Bradford Royal Infirmary. The injuries were so serious that O'Connor not only required immediate medical intervention, but also faced the long-term consequences of nerve damage. Following the attack, Rahman was swiftly arrested outside the shop. His actions, driven by violent ideology and unchecked aggression, led to his conviction and a 5-year jail sentence in 2009. Amir Rahman was sentenced to 8.5 years in 2019 for his role in the Sully line. Mujahid Mahmud was no small-time dealer. He was an essential part of the Sully line structure. The prosecution described him as the trusted lieutenant, meaning he was responsible for coordinating the lower-level street dealers, handling operations, and ensuring the gang's activities ran smoothly. Mujahid Mahmud was actively involved in manning the Sully line's phone, which was the nerve center of the operation. He took orders from addicts, arranged deliveries, and made sure the drugs reached their buyers. As a key figure in the hierarchy, he had direct contact with the street dealers and was responsible for overseeing the distribution of heroin and crack cocaine. The Sully line was taking in up to 700 orders a day, and Mahmud played a pivotal role in making sure every one of them was fulfilled. Despite his claims of innocence, the evidence against Mahmud was overwhelming. He was arrested on March 7th, 2018, in an Audi S3 in Bradford, where he was found carrying a small amount of heroin and crack cocaine. During the 2019 trial, he repeatedly denied being a drug dealer, claiming he was just a user and had no involvement with the Sully line's activities. However, cross-examination revealed the truth. Mahmud admitted to knowing multiple drug dealers and that 3 or 4 of his close friends were involved in the trade. Phone records linked him directly to the Sully line, proving his role in manning the line and taking orders from addicts. As the trial progressed, Mahmud realized that the evidence against him was too strong. On Sunday, May the 12th, 2019, after giving evidence in court, he made a desperate move. He fled the country to Islamabad, Pakistan. He was granted bail over the weekend, but failed to return to court on a Monday. In his absence, the jury found him guilty of conspiracy to supply heroin and crack cocaine, and he was sentenced to 10 years in prison. The judge condemned his escape, labeling him a coward who knew he had no chance of beating the charges. For almost 9 months, Mahmud remained a fugitive in Pakistan, thinking he had escaped British justice. But in February 2020, he voluntarily returned to the UK, perhaps believing he could negotiate a lesser sentence. The moment his plane landed, an arrest warrant was executed and he was taken into custody. He was immediately brought before Bradford Crown Court, where he pleaded guilty to failing to surrender to custody. The judge sentenced him to an additional 4 months, which would run consecutively with his 10-year sentence. Luqman Nazir was convicted of 2 offences of being concerned in the supply of Class A drugs. His role in the Sully line was that of a lower-level distributor, a man trusted with getting the drugs into the hands of addicts on the streets. Luqman Nazir was not just a passive participant. He was actively supplying heroin and crack cocaine in Bradford. The Sully line relied on foot soldiers like Nazir to ensure the drugs reached their customers, with constant movement around the city's drug hotspots. Unlike some of his fellow gang members, Nazir was already well known to the police before this case even began. In 2019, Luqman Nazir was sentenced to 3.5 years in prison for his role in the Sully line. Long before he was caught in the Sully line investigation, Nazir had already left a trail of destruction in Bradford. In 2012, Nazir was involved in a horrifying 100-mile-per-hour police chase that ended in tragedy. He was behind the wheel of a Subaru Impreza, recklessly speeding through the streets of Bradford. The pursuit ended when Nazir lost control of the vehicle and crashed, hitting Isaac Thompson, a 20-year-old man sitting on a wall. The impact was devastating. Thompson suffered such severe injuries that he was left fighting for his life. What happened next shocked the court. Instead of checking on the critically injured victim, Nazir climbed out of the wreckage and stepped over Thompson's body. He then fled the scene, showing zero regard for the life he had just destroyed. The consequences for Thompson were life-altering. His injuries were so severe that there were discussions of a potential leg amputation. His ability to live a normal life had been permanently affected, all because of Nazir's reckless actions. The 2012 crash wasn't an isolated incident. Luqman Nazir had already developed a reputation as a dangerous criminal. Violent robbery in 2012, just a month before the crash, Nazir was on bail for a violent bag snatch, showing a pattern of aggression. High-speed chase 8 days prior. 8 days before the crash, police had tried to stop Nazir for speeding at 80 miles per hour in the same Subaru Impreza, but he managed to evade capture. 2010 assault conviction. In 2010, Nazir was locked up for 21 months after punching a man in the face during a drunken fight. In 2013, the courts finally caught up with Luqman Nazir, and he was sentenced to 5.5 years in prison for robbery, careless driving, dangerous driving, causing grievous bodily harm, common assault and theft. Here's a breakdown of the rest of the gang members and what role they played in the Sully line. Shiraz Mahmud, the communications man. His role in charge of replacing SIM cards and diverting calls to keep the Sully line phone operational 24/7. He was sentenced to 5 years and 4 months in prison. Harim Hussein, the dishonest supplier. Her role: she acted as a key supplier within the operation, ensuring drugs reached the street dealers. The judge labelled her a dishonest woman for not only supplying Class A drugs but also lying to the police and the court to cover her tracks. She was sentenced to 4 years for her involvement. Mohammed Vanid Khan, the driver and supporter, his role Harim Hussein's driver, helping her distribute drugs across Bradford. His sentence was 4 years and 2 months in prison. Mohammed Zahid, the Leeds-based supplier, his role, a drug supplier from Leeds, responsible for bringing Class A drugs into Bradford for distribution. He was sentenced to 2 years and 10 months in prison. Mohammed Asfan, the peddler, his role, a street dealer selling heroin and crack cocaine directly to addicts. He was sentenced to 2 years and 2 months in prison. David Coates, a former soldier who turned to drug dealing. He was already serving a jail sentence for a previous drug-related offence when he was linked to the Sully line. He was handed 4 additional years added to his existing sentence. Shahzad Salim, another street dealer. His role: a low-level dealer responsible for handing out drugs to users in Bradford. He was sentenced to 18 months in prison. Malachi Hodgson, a young man with a bright future in football who got caught up in the world of drug dealing. He was handed a sentence of 16 months imprisonment, suspended for 2 years with 280 hours of unpaid work and a 4-month curfew order. That wraps up today's crime story. If you want exclusive content, including unseen footage and deep dives into some of the UK's biggest criminal cases, become a member of SN Studios. Make sure to like, share, and subscribe to stay updated on the latest crime stories. More content is coming soon. Don't miss out.